Good afternoon. Welcome to the August 14th, 2017 meeting of the Metropolitan Traffic and Parking Commission. If you are not satisfied with a decision made by the Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. I ask for an approval of today's agenda.
So moved.
We have a first.
Excuse me, we do need to make one correction to the agenda. On item K, it is listed as a shuttle stop on 8th Avenue North and Gay Street. That actually should be on the north side of Gay Street between Rosa Park and 10th Circle North.
Okay. Rosa Parks and what?
North side of Gay Street, Rosa Park, and 10th Circle North.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with that addition, we have a first and a second for approval of agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. Approval of the minutes of the July 10th, 2017 meeting. Is there a first?
Chairman, I'd like to defer the meetings for this month. There's K is not listed, and I don't have last month's agenda in front of me to know what that was, so unless anyone knows why that was deleted off of here, I'd just like to defer until we get that corrected.
Okay.
To next month.
All right. So there's a motion to defer approval of the minutes until the September meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Approved. Approval of the consent agenda. Before reading the consent agenda, commissioners, are there items that you looked at that you would like to have removed?
I'd like to have J removed, please,
Okay.
for discussion.
Ms. Williams, I think you have an item.
Yes, E.
Okay. All right.
Item what?
E.
All right. I'd ask for a motion to item E be removed from the consent agenda. Authorized valet zone on Demermian Street east of 3rd Avenue South, the diner. And that we remove item J, authorized 2-hour parking sign on the north side of Ackland Avenue from 20th Avenue South to 21st Avenue South. Is there a first?
First.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those items have been removed. Okay. Consent agenda 0817. Authorize a 3-way stop at Irma Drive and Reeves Road, requested by Council Member Vercher. Item B, modify 2-way stop to 4-way stop at Irma Drive and McBride Road, requested Council Member Vercher. Item C, authorize all-way stop control on South 7th Street and Glenview Avenue, requested by Council Member Withers. Item D, authorize all-way stop control on Cottage Lane and Del Rose Avenue, requested by Council Member Syracuse. Item F, Proposal 2017M020AB001, a request for the abandonment of alley number 925 from 21st Avenue North to 22nd Avenue North between Charlotte Avenue and Clifton Avenue. See site plan for details. Utility easements are requested to be abandoned, requested by Perry Engineering LLC applicant. Item G, Proposal 2017M021AB001, a request for the abandonment of a portion of Richardson Avenue from Montgomery Avenue east to the CSX Railroad right-of-way. See sketch for details. Utility easements are to be retained, requested by Rob Benshoff, applicant. H, reduce speed limit on Sanborn Drive from Elm Hill Pike to Bismarck Drive from 35 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour. Item I, Proposal 2017M022AB001, a request for the abandonment of a portion of Lee Avenue from 8th Avenue South eastward approximately 137 feet to the southwest corner of map 093-10, parcel 067, and alley number 114 from 8th Avenue South to Lafayette Street. See sketch for details. Utility easements and pedestrian easements are to be retained. Requested by Avison Young applicant. Item K, authorized loading and unloading zone for state shuttle at North Gay Street, Rosa Parks Boulevard, and 10th Circle. Is that correct? 10th Circle. L, remove valet stand at Cabana 1910 Belcourt Avenue. Item N, authorized loading zone on west side of Almond Street at 410 4th Avenue South for Marin Barbecue. Item N, authorized loading zone at 115 27th Avenue North. That is the proposed consent agenda for today. Is there any discussion, or do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
We have a first. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The consent agenda has been approved. Okay. All right, before we move to new business, says Councilmember Sledge, are you here today? Okay. You're the first new business item. We'll have you come forward first, please.
I'm going to go back to the...
Oh, thank you, Ms. Woods. Okay. We have two other items. Item E, authorize the valet zone on the Mumrian Street east of 3rd Avenue South, the diner, and the 2-hour parking signs on north side of Ackland Avenue. Staff, can you fill us in on those two items, please?
The application was received and reviewed by staff for a valet zone for the diner. It's to be located on the south side of the Mumbrium, 35 feet east of 3rd Avenue South. The hours of operation are 9 a.m. to 2 a.m.
Commissioner Williams?
I have a little concern about this because in looking at it, it seems like since we denied the application for valet service at Sea Salt, this is a similar situation with that. So I was worried about it from the standpoint of having the Ascend Amphitheater over there with activity there, Bridgestone up the street, the construction that's still underway. There's no business that's gone into the basement, not the basement, but the 3rd Avenue side of the apartment building, and the Bridgestone building that's being constructed with 1,800 employees that are going to be exiting out of there, and having a valet on one side of the street and a valet on the other side of the street, and it being a very similar situation to what we had already denied with Sea Salt.
Corby, do you have your computer working?
It is.
Are there anyone from the valet company or the diner here today?
Yes. Sean Marshall.
Okay, wait just one second. I'm just asking first.
Yeah, we've got a sketch for showing the limits of the proposed valet operation, and we have Roy Rowan here from our permits office. They've been operating through a temporary condition through the permits office, and we have a representative from the diner themselves. So, picture's worth 1,000 words. That's the area we're talking about. I'm not sure exactly where Sea Salt is and all that, but the area on the, let me get my bearings, the south of the page is where the proposed valet would go, that little square, you see it, the valet.
Now, Sea Salt was on 3rd Avenue North, not 3rd Avenue South.
Yeah, I understand that, but
Okay.
they are similar in terms of the way that the streets are laid out, and that there's one lane. I know that there's a turn lane down there at the red light, and there's a lane to go straight. Of course, there's also construction down there at that, on the other side, in between 1st Avenue and 2nd Avenue. It's just going to be, and I don't know whether it's been an issue. I think that for the traffic thus far, having both of those under there, and maybe Sean can address that, but from the traffic standpoint, I just want to make sure that we're treating these businesses that are requesting these valet zones all, fairly, and everything is apples to apples.
Mr. Rowland, would you come forward to the podium? Will you please come forward to the, and have a seat and introduce yourself? We have a large crowd today, wherever you want. Thank you.
Corey Rowan, I'm with the Metro Public Works. I'm right to temporary permits. The difference between the sea salt, I believe, and the diner valets is that the sea salt is in a metered area that is on the opposite side of sea salt, which sea salt actually is in a lane of traffic, so you'd have to cross, and whereas this is next to the restaurant, and the widths are I think they had a traffic engineer draw their plan, and it went through that process of looking at to make sure that it was, because I don't want to defend them. I just think there is a little bit of difference between the two, but it is a little congested in everywhere downtown. So, and we have to look at everything real carefully. So,
All right. Is there someone here from the diner or the valet stand? Could you please step forward and state your name, please?
Sean Marshall from the diner, not from the valet.
Okay.
Hi there. Sorry, I walked in the tail end on this one, but essentially we've been operating for 4 or 5 months now. They recently restriped the lanes as well, so there is no obstruction with the proposed valet spot. So it is very different, I think, as Roy spoke of with the sea salt situation.
All right. Ms. Williams, do you have any further questions?
When I was looking at it on Saturday, I was just concerned because there's no pullout. Across the street where the Southern is, there is a clearly defined pullout where the cars pull in, and down there on the other end in the same block, there's just not one. And I was just concerned that this is going to create a backup in there. I know that even sometimes with the one with the Southern, that there's a backup in there because it's busy. Those are successful businesses, and it's busy.
That's a point well made. If we weren't going to be able to move the double yellow center line over, and we were not going to cut the sidewalk, because pedestrian movement is very important downtown. We couldn't make this work without scooting that double yellow over. So with that engineering drawing you saw there, and Rory's been monitoring it for 3 months or so, I get what you're saying about, we got to be fair to all these and weigh them all evenly. But this one does meet the criteria. Now, y'all vote how you'd like, but it still met get the pen out and your calculator out and you measure the road, and everything seemed to be working fine. Valleys downtown are what they are. They do cause a little congestion, but hopefully you're removing some of that on-street parking or people carpool a little more.
All right. So would anyone like any more questions, please?
Yeah,
Yes.
I just have a quick question. I couldn't quite tell from the drawing, but if there is a car parked at the valet, is there room for the through traffic heading towards the Ascent Amphitheater, or does that block the through lane entirely?
We marked the zone far enough back away from the traffic signal and the turn lane to where the valet will not be operating in that turn lane.
Will it be operating in the through lane heading, what is that, towards the river?
It will require a taper. You do have to merge over to the left to go around the parked cars, or in this case a valet. So we had to put a small taper in there to go around it, and then you go straight towards the river. Corby, you got that drawing back up? See, I'm not sure this is precisely to scale, but the point of moving that double yellow over was to give a little taper to go around anybody in the valet. Yeah, we do not want people in the through lanes.
So do we have a motion on the item presented?
I have one last question, if that's okay. Is it a single car valet? Are cars going to back up all the way to 3rd Avenue, or has that happened in operation so far?
According to all valet operations, they're given 2 spaces. In this particular case, they requested 6. We marked it based on what was available space-wise for 4 spaces.
What's the normal, what do we normally do, Diane, with spaces
The
downtown with
normal,
valets?
according to code, is 2 spaces.
Okay.
And the commission has the authority to grant additional spaces according to code.
Okay.
All right, is there a motion on the item?
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. We'll ask for a hand vote on this. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? It passed unanimously. Okay, item J, authorize 2-hour parking signs on the north side of Ackland Avenue from 21st Avenue South to 20th Avenue South to 21st Avenue South. Commissioner Woods, you had a question.
Yes, a question this is needed. What's different about what we're proposing versus the 2-hour signs that are up there now?
The location, based on our drawing, the 2-hour parking is going to be from 20th Avenue South to the dead end. There is already additional 2-hour parking from 21st down to 20th. So this just changes it, making it from 20th Avenue South to the dead end on the north side.
And is this on both sides of the street?
It is only one side of the street, the north side.
Okay. All right,
The council member is here if you would like to speak with her on this.
thank you.
Yes, Ms. Allen, will you come forward, please?
Thank you. Yes, I had also requested to have this taken off consent. But Commissioners, I'm Berkeley Allen, council member for District 18, and proudly serving the Bookman Book 1 location. And I had a question, number 1, about the location. So it's technically like from 19th to 20th. I don't know if that needs to be changed on the agenda or in the minutes. And the north side is what's requested here. The south side already has 2-hour parking. And the space that's indicated already has 2-hour parking. This is part of a larger issue that has come up as we have 3 construction projects happening simultaneously in Hillsborough Village, and parking is at a premium. We've worked with Rory Rowan and Chip and Diane to try to come up with solutions to make sure that we've got turnover in the very limited number of parking spaces that we have. We're also trying to make sure that we have parking spaces for employees, which is a little counter to having the 2-hour parking everywhere, which this kind of fills in just about the last space that we had unlimited parking. There's an issue here in that we are close to a certain unnamed university whose employees frequently choose not to pay to park in the parking spaces provided on campus and will come and park here for 8 hours at a time, making those spaces unavailable for either employees or for the customers, which defeats the purpose of having this public parking. So I had asked Diane if I could take this off the consent agenda to make sure that the business owners were comfortable with this change, and I sent an email out, and the response I got was generally positive. There is concern about their employee parking, so I will be coming back to you with the request to create a new thing called commercial permit parking or tenant permit parking or something that would be narrowly defined for area near universities and medical centers where businesses would be able to buy a limited number of spaces similar to a residential permit parking space. I'm still thinking it through. I don't know if it exists in any other city. I'm running it past planning and some other folks, and I'd certainly value your opinion on it. But in this particular case, it's a real hardship for these businesses to try to create the turnover they need for their customers, but still have some place nearby where their employees can park. So look for commercial permit parking, very narrowly defined in the upcoming future. So with that caveat, I'm comfortable with this moving forward, and the folks that I heard from are comfortable with it, but they're counting on us providing them with a solution for their employees.
So my question, Councilwoman, is the picture we're getting is where the Methodist Church and the post office are, which already has those signs.
That is correct. That is from 20th to 21st, and it already has 2-hour parking.
Right, so and that's what's on this agenda.
Correct. And that
Okay,
is,
so you're talking about the other side of
it was
21st.
the block closer to Magnolia that was requested. I believe the signs are already there
Okay.
today. I'm not sure how they got there so fast. That's really, yeah, I saw them. They're there.
So this is all taken care of, so we don't need it on number J. You're going to come back with another.
So, I mean, J exists. I'm not sure if those signs are officially authorized until you vote on it today, but
Okay.
they are there. And then I'm asking for your help in creating a new tool that we don't have today.
So I move to approve J as it is written.
Okay.
Or does it need to be modified to say 19th to 20th?
As corrected.
It does. Okay, so what's the wording that we need to?
I think it's 19th to 20th, although 19th doesn't actually extend that. Maybe we should say from Magnolia to 20th.
What we need to do is change it to add 2-hour parking signs on the north side of Ackland from 19th to 20th.
I think that would.
Okay.
And council, I do need to talk to legal. I do own property a couple of blocks away on 21st.
If you feel like that would be something where you would have a financial interest, that would be affected by this decision of the commission, then I would advise you to recuse yourself out of
Okay,
excess
let me
caution.
recuse myself.
Okay. I'd like to have a modified motion on this item, please.
So moved.
Okay, we have a first. Is there a second?
Second?
All right. Would all those in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed?
Thank you.
And let the record note that Ms. Woods abstained, recused herself. Thank you. Thank you, council member. Okay. Now, council member Sledge, we'll ask you to step forward about the new business item, residential parking permit on Elliott Avenue, please.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to come here today. So the request is basically one block of Elliott Avenue to have residential permit parking, and the particular circumstances under this block are as follows. Of this pretty substantial residential and, as part of the whole project, mixed-use development that's occurring on the east side of this Elliott block, that is partly in Metro's boundaries and partly in Berry Hills boundaries. So this project, the residential density was approved. This was a vacant lot, but it was the vacant lot behind the Colonial Bakery, if you'll remember. The vacant lot was turned into residential, street-facing residential that's going to go up. I think it's 4 stories, or the 4th story is a setback, and it's pretty substantial. There's a built-in parking garage that will be part of this project that's included with the mixed use, but on the west side of this block of Elliott is single family or 2-on-1. There is no curb and gutter on the west side. On the east side, there will be sidewalk, curb and gutter, dedicated there'll be street parking on there, not assigned to anybody, but it's likely that it will be going toward the new residences that will be built. So the residents on the west side of this that have no alley access and typically have a single lane driveway, if they have one, have requested that they have residential permit parking on this side with the anticipated density coming.
And what are the limits of this proposal? It didn't have the block
The
listed.
block, I can't remember the streets, but I know it's between the Village South condominiums and the Park at Melrose condominiums.
That's correct.
Whatever streets that.
I'm going to get this wrong if I don't ask Mark. Can you?
Between Inverness Avenue and
Hillview Heights, yeah. Hillview Heights and Inverness.
Okay. And that is it's the residential side.
And it's just on the west side.
Correct,
Okay.
just on the west side.
I just want to make sure our notes reflected that. So I'd like to make a motion to approve on the west side between, tell me the street names again?
Inverness Avenue and Hillview Heights.
Inverness Avenue and Bellevue Heights.
And Hillview Heights, okay. We have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Thank you, council member.
Thanks so much, Commissioners.
Okay. Council member Allen, you're back up again.
Yes.
Residential parking permit on Belcourt Avenue. If you could give us some specifications of exactly where on Belcourt Avenue.
Certainly, this
please.
is between Natchez Trace and 32nd Avenue. Again, this is close to a certain university whose employees choose to park in the neighborhood, and also their contractors, although they have been asked not to do this. So this not only sometimes results in blocked driveways, in obstructed mailboxes, it hinders the pickup of brush and of street sweeping. So the neighbors have asked that they could, they have gone through the process of getting the proper petitions and have worked through the council members, so they've done the process properly. And I can't speak officially for the university, but in conversations with their representative, she has said that she supports this, so if you need to corroborate that, have at it. But my understanding is that we have support from the university, and certainly the neighbors feel very strongly that this would
What
make
are
their
the
street function.
restrictions on, are there any, is it,
It would be 2-hour.
Okay.
2-hour parking and then otherwise residential, and Monday through Friday, so it doesn't cover weekends. It just deals with the work week.
okay.
And what are the block?
Begins with Natchez Trace, which is essentially 28th Avenue up to 32nd.
Natchez to 32nd?
Correct, 32nd Avenue.
If we could have that noted in the record.
We could, if people have, if commissioners don't have a question, we could have a motion then and make sure we specify. It would be helpful going forward from staff if we could get the exact specifications of these. It makes it easier to decide.
We will make
I
note
move
of
to
that.
approve. I move to approve the proposal for residential parking on Belcourt Avenue from Natchez Trace to 32nd Avenue.
We have a first, is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second.
And just for clarification, on both sides? Is that correct?
On both sides.
On both sides.
Okay.
And with 2 hours. Does that stated in there?
Yes.
It is not stated.
It is not. No, I did not.
Please update the
Okay.
record.
So I need
2
to
hours
amend.
Monday
Would
through
you
Friday.
please restate your motion, Ms. Woods?
I want to make a motion to approve residential parking on Belcourt Avenue from Natchez Trace to 32nd Avenue, Monday through Friday, from, do we have a time of day?
8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
8 a.m. to 4 p.m. with a 2-hour permission to park
That
on
is
both
correct.
sides of the street.
We now have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Okay. I think I'm going to, in the interest of time, because I know there's lots of people, who's all here for item number 3, which is truck prohibition on 51st Avenue? Please raise your hands. Okay, that's the majority of the room. Okay, Councilmember Bedney, I think we'll ask you to come forward to speak about item number 4. You have an appeal denial to lower the speed limit on Old Hickory Boulevard between Bell Road and Burkett Road from 40 miles per hour to 35 miles per hour. Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you. If I may, can I ask who's on the crowd supporting my request today?
Yes. Who's here with Councilmember Bedney, please?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, I got a call from somebody asking me to increase the speed limit. And so I decided to do a poll, and I did. I thought it was so smart. So I put this online poll, and I got a lot of responses. The majority wanted to increase the speed limit, but there was a significant number that wanted to keep it the way it was. So I decided to ask for the speed to be increased to 40 as a pilot program on a temporary basis. And so that, with the help of Public Works, that happened. And so after it got changed, I started getting lots of complaints, and I realized that that had been a mistake because people really can't get out of their houses. When Old Hickory Boulevard being a thorough road where people cut through, the locals are unable to safely exit into Old Hickory Boulevard. So we had a community meeting about a year ago. It was attended by Councilman Coleman and Council Lady Dow. And through the discussion, we talked about Old Hickory in general. Ali Aifis was present, and one of the things that was clear through the whole conversation is people wanted to put it back at 35. So I placed that request, and that's why I'm here. I'm asking for your support in putting it back at 35. Sometimes we need to respect the needs of the minority to ensure that everybody is safe. There have been accidents on the road, and people need to be able to safely exit their or enter their homes. And so I'm asking for your help in putting it back at 35. And I promise I won't change it again.
Thank you, Councilmember. Staff, there are comments you have concerning this, and is there a map that you could pull up to show
Yeah,
exactly?
Corby's got one there. He said it perfectly. Back in 2015, there was a request to increase the speed limit. Very rare these times, but yeah, we did a speed study, and the 85th percentile speed, that's an engineering term, that's how you kind of determine speed limits. 85th percentile speed came in at 48 miles an hour, so raising it gets you closer to what everybody's doing anyway. So 2 years later, the same request comes in to lower it back to the way it was. We did another speed study just to see if anything's changed. Same speeds. The point kind of being that we can change those signs all day, and people are going to drive how they're going to drive. The difference being enforcement comes into play when you have other issues like driveways and things. So they're going to enforce 40 today where they could enforce 35 next week or whatever. So the reason it came in as an appeal, first of all, we don't want to flip-flop speed limits every couple of years. Secondly, as engineers, when you get an 85th percentile speed at 48 miles an hour, you typically don't want to lower it to 35. You just increase the number of violators, because you're going to have the law-abiding people going 35, but you're still going to have a lot of people doing 45 and 48 because they drive to the condition of the road, their comfort. With that being said, I always state the council person knows his area more than anyone. We can put this speed limit out there and do some enforcement, see if it lowers that 85th percentile I keep referring to. It's not the end of the world, but I always try to bring it before this commission instead of making the decision just on my own, especially because we just changed it 24 months ago.
Commissioners, any questions?
And are there driveways, I mean, I can sort of tell from the aerial that there are certainly ones as you get closer to Bell Road, but, are you saying there's kind of driveways all along there?
Yeah, that road was designed for horses and carriages. I mean, it wasn't designed for cars. And so it's very windy. There's lots of trees coming close to the street. So as people are trying, and some of the people are here can tell you, they're trying to look to see if a car is coming. They really can't tell because they're coming so fast around the bend and with all the trees. And Public Works helps me all the time cutting the brush down, but it's still hard for people to stay safely. And the thing is, most of the people, don't take it wrong, but they're older than me, and so I want them to be safe. I want them to be able to get out of their houses and come back in their houses safely. So,
I make a motion to approve from 35 to 40.
From what? It's from 40 to 35.
40 to 35.
Okay, we have a motion to lower the speed limit to reverse the denial. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Council members?
Commissioners,
Thank you.
I won't bring it back, I promise.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Item 3, truck prohibition on 51st Avenue between Delaware Avenue and Centennial Boulevard. Okay. Council Member Roberts, you're here. Wait just one second. I'm going to state kind of what we're going to do. We're going to have a public hearing. We're going to have those who are for and those who are against speak. I'd like the council member to speak first. If we could try to limit all comments to 3 minutes, please. And please raise your hand if you are here for this, please, so we can get an idea. And are all of you here to speak for the truck prohibition, or is there some people who are with some organizations? Okay. Okay. And then who's here to speak against having a truck prohibition on 51st? Okay. So we have a good number. And we have, I assume, some representatives as well. So Councilmember Roberts, we'll let you begin, please, because I think you're the council member for this area, please.
Had less to say, maybe. So we're here to talk about this again, and this is not about safety. I mean, this is all about safety. This is not about truck restriction. Currently, there are 18-wheelers going through businesses on Centennial Boulevard, and they're cutting through 51st Avenue, where they're intermingling with pedestrians, bikers, and people driving cars. They're taking a shortcut through Indiana and Georgia when they leave, and those are both school zones. We're not taking away their access. They have a way to get in from the east, from the west. All we're asking is they don't come in through the south, which is 51st Avenue. With the completion of 51st becoming a complete street, it's now the sort of neighborhood-centric street where people bike, walk, and drive. Having 18-wheelers go through that thoroughfare is extremely dangerous. I know that the truck route report shows a lack of other options regarding the north-south connections, but using Briley Parkway as the access point to Centennial seems to be the reason that access was designed. Vehicular traffic is no longer the mode of transportation on 51st Avenue, and it should be limited, not to 18-wheelers cutting through 51st to save 5 minutes to get to their destination. We're asking you that you please get the 18-wheelers not to cut through 51st Avenue, through our 5 crosswalks, and not cut down Indiana and Georgia through the 2 school zones.
Thank you, council member. Appreciate it. All right. We're going to open the public hearing. We're going to start with those who are supporting the council member's position, which is for prohibition on weight. Is that correct, Chip? Is that what we're...
Correct. 8 tons.
Can we ask a question?
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
What are the 2 streets, Councilwoman, that you said they could use? The other 2 streets?
So they can get off of Briley Parkway and come down Centennial, or they could get off of Jefferson and come down Centennial. Either way, both of them are off of I-40, and both have access to Centennial Boulevard.
So you're saying you're asking Centennial be used?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. And we have maps to show that'll be a little more obvious. I kind of just wanted to give the preliminary, and then the maps that we're using will be a little more, we'll define it a little better.
I can lay this out so you can see it.
Okay. So we'll start with the pro side. Corby, if you'd please run the clock. We're going to be keeping comments to 3 minutes. I assume that maybe the first person on the pro side is someone with a neighborhood organization here to speak, please. And if every speaker who comes forward would please state your name and where you live for the record, please. Thank you.
My name's Travis Moore. I live on Pennsylvania Avenue and 62nd Avenue. I'm the president of the Neighborhood Association for the Nations, and we've had this topic on our list of discussion for a few years now. We have had an overwhelming amount of people show support for prohibition on 51st Avenue, as we do have a significant amount of businesses that have just started, as well as foot traffic. We just had some really nice bike lanes installed for the complete street, and we've been very excited just as a neighborhood, a majority of the neighborhood, about what 51st could possibly be. And this is the first step to making that a safe place for neighbors and people to walk their dogs or push their strollers and not be afraid to do that with very large trucks driving by and at not correct speeds. And it's just the street is not for that anymore. Or has since changes have been made. So I know there are some people here who might be against that, but as I say, a majority of the people that come to our meetings regarding this topic are supporting that prohibition, and that's why I'm here to just kind of communicate that to you. So.
Thank you very much. Who'd like to speak next, please? And again, please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Matthew Siegel, 4606 Illinois Avenue. I prepared a few things. One is that map that you see in front of you, frankly, just to help with understanding all the businesses that are now retail businesses and service-oriented businesses that are along 51st. As well, I'm going to pass out. I couldn't quite make all the copies here, but there are some.
Could someone hold that up so that all the commission members can see it, please?
We've got an easel, if that's helpful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Particularly, I want to talk about the traffic study, because I think that's actually at the core of what we're talking about here. Traffic study said continue to allow the large trucks up and down 51st, and this is on appeal. We're asking you to grant an appeal of that determination. there are five points where the traffic study was particularly flawed. I'm going to try and be as quick as I can. Number one, it did not examine traffic bound for the interstate. Those are the fully loaded tankers. That's where they have those cut-throughs. If you can see the purple lines on that map there, those are the cut-throughs, because to legally get to I-40 westbound, you have to make 3 left turns. You go down 51st, left on Alabama, left on 46th, left onto Delaware, and then onto the interstate. Trucks may not like to do that, so they just cut right through the neighborhood. Those are, if you look in the bottom left-hand corner there, those are trucks cutting through a school zone on Indiana, an elementary school, no less. Happens all the time. I live on Illinois. I see it there too. Didn't really consider today's conditions, and I laid out the alignment there for you. Now we have 2 travel lanes only, about 6 feet of bike lane plus about 3-foot buffer, so about 9 feet of bike lane, I think. Is that about right? Plus a parking lane. Pedestrian sidewalks, now we have connectivity on basically both sides up and down except for one small stretch. A lot of pedestrians. 9 painted crosswalks at 7 different state streets there. Next, the study labeled a fair bit of the area above Centennial, labeled all of it industrial. And I'd like to point out that a lot of that has changed hands. A lot of that is now residential. That's more pedestrians, more people moving up and down 51st. And then lastly, one funny thing that the study said was that enforcement may not be realistic. Well, first of all, we can't do any worse than this. I guarantee when they come down my street, other than taking a picture, maybe if I get it on time and I happen to be there that day with my phone ready, there's not much we can do. Proper signage on the interstate, proper signage exiting on 46 is going to go a heck of a long way. And besides that, we've got at least a couple dozen, maybe 30 people here who are really committed to keeping the heavy trucks off 51st. We'll be able to enforce it. So it's sort of a flawed study, and we ask that you support the truck weight prohibition. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
That's good on the buzzer.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lauren Hansen, and I am on Kentucky between 53rd and 54th. I have pictures for y'all. I only have 2, but... So we are also very concerned about the safety of this issue on 51st. Since that traffic study was conducted, we were not the complete street that we are now, which is the mayor's initiative to have the 2 traffic lanes, the 1 turning lane, the bike lane, and also the parking lane. Now, with that, we have also gotten a lot of retail businesses, with many more to come. That is because we're changing from the industrial area that we were to now a residential, a lot of young families, a lot of young professionals in the area. Many health conscious that want to walk. We want to ride our bikes. That is why we're in what is a walkable neighborhood. When you go out onto a street and as you see those, they're dented, they're hit. It's because the trucks are unable to make the appropriate turns and they're hitting those. What if a person was in that bike lane? That's pretty close for a truck and a bike to be colliding. So also, we have all these great new crosswalks. There are 9 painted ones and the 7 streets. And in these, they're pretty close together if you're not familiar with 51st. A truck does not necessarily have the braking power to be able to adequately stop in between the stop signs for pedestrians. Cars have a very hard time doing it, but a truck with 18 wheels and a full load is going to hit somebody when they're going through the crosswalk if they walk through, which pedestrians have the right of way. So we're concerned about safety. It's our neighborhood. It is residential now. We are so excited about all of the businesses, restaurants, stores that are coming to that area, and we want to walk there. We want to ride our bikes there. That's the point of it. It is to be green and friendly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on the pro side? Yes, ma'am. Please step forward.
Hi, my name is Kelly Babcock. I live at 4608 Indiana Avenue, across the street from Cockrell Elementary School. We've owned the home since 2005. My most significant experience with the trucks has been their utilization of 46th and 47th in Indiana as a cut through to get from 40 on to 51st. They do so at speeds that far exceed the 35-mile-per-hour speed limit, with little regard for the fact that they're utilizing a school zone for this. The children play in the front yard of the school at times, and I didn't notice or think about it as much until the explosion happened on Centennial a couple of years ago, and I realized that the truckers that are coming off 51st that take a left onto Indiana and then turn right onto 47th are fully loaded with whatever material they might have, and that something like that should be preventable in front of our elementary schools. As far as 51st itself, it's unpassable with a stroller at this time. Though the West Park Community Center and England Park are less than a mile from my house, I've determined it's not safe for me to try to push my stroller across the street because trucks won't yield to me. I tried the other night, it was the evening, I went to go meet some friends for ice cream at Coco's, and I thought, it's the evening, trucking, it should be, the traffic should be died down a little bit, and I had to stop and wait for 2 large trucks to fly past me while I was standing in the intersection, or standing in the crosswalk, until a neighbor stopped and waved me across. The truckers that are using 51st are using it to go fast. They're not looking to stop for somebody to be walking across the street, and I'm concerned if they won't yield to a pregnant woman pushing a stroller across the street, that they won't yield to a handicapped person or a child. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir. Please step forward.
Hi, Brett Shoemaker. I live on Indiana between 49th and 51st, right down the street from Cockrell. I'll kind of echo what Kelly mentioned. We're neighbors for the most part. I have the benefit of working from home remotely, and as was mentioned, most of the truckers use Indiana and Georgia, Illinois even, as direct cut-throughs for easier access to the interstate. A lot of concerns, obviously, around safety. I walk my dogs twice a day, up and down Indiana. Most of the pictures you see on the poster here, in the handouts, those are all from my cell phone. I'm pretty adamant about it. In fact, because of the cut-through and the safety, I've had 2 separate instances, 2 different companies that have nearly hit me and my dogs crossing the street. Didn't yield, almost weren't paying attention, had somewhere to be, obviously, so significant concerns there. There was a 3rd instance where I took the opportunity to flag one down as he was coming off 51st as a cut-through on Indiana. I asked him to stop. And I mentioned to him, I said, you realize there's a weight restriction on this, not to mention an elementary school with children playing. You were to flip over, have you considered that as a problem? And his argument was that you guys have signs posted, but they're in the wrong places. Not whether or not that it's, a safety concern or should he be doing that or not, that our signs are posted in the correct places. So I think most of us as residents in the neighborhood are here to support the prohibition strictly on safety alone. As most folks have mentioned, the neighborhood has changed significantly, especially since the last study was performed, that we're looking to kind of back that traffic down. I've tried to cross 51st multiple instances with very little concern for anyone yielding for us to cross. So thank you guys for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Who's next, please?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michael Kenner. I live at 5513 Morrow Road in the Nations, and I am also a business owner. I am a real estate developer there. I own a building. It's the first new building on 51st Avenue. It's called the Phoenix, symbolizing the rebirth of 51st, which was a fairly fitting name. And about 4 years ago, I watched a TED Talk up late one night about a guy who did something called a road diet. And I went to the neighborhood the next morning, and I said, hey, guys, do you want to do this? And what we did was we took over one block, in front of what used to be Stone Fox and what's now House Social Eatery. And for one day, we took over that one block and we wanted to change it and restripe it because the current dynamic was 90% automobile, 10% pedestrian. There's no thought for bike or anything else. It was just mainly a thoroughfare for industrial tanker trucks bordered by residential. So we took over the street for a day after lots of fights with Public Works. And about a week before we were able to throw our event, a tanker truck just happens to flip over 2 blocks from there. And so one of the things that we did for that event was we created this demonstration where we went out and measured the blast radius of that tanker truck that flipped over on Centennial. And so you guys can see that blast radius of that tanker truck, which was not 100% full. I do believe they said the capacity on that was 75%. So this shows the blast radius of a tanker truck at 75% capacity. And this shows the impact that that blast radius would have if that thing exploded on 51st. And so, ladies and gentlemen, commissioners, if you look at that, you will see that if a tanker was to flip over at the corner of 51st and Indiana, it would kill everyone eating inside of Stone Fox Restaurant, and it would kill everyone across the street eating in the Nation's Bar and Grill. Now, if that impact is not reason enough to ban tanker trucks, especially after we've had 2 explosions in the Middle Tennessee region, one took out an entire bridge in Franklin and killed a man and caused millions of dollars worth of damage. This one happened to happen when no one was around and at a part of the neighborhood that was unpopulated. But I just want you to think about 2 things. A, the dynamic of the street has been changed because these neighbors have fought to change it and have fought to bring this back to a walkable neighborhood like it used to be, because 51st Avenue is 100 wide. The reason why is because it used to be a trolley line. This used to be a heavy pedestrian area for this neighborhood. And then the industrialization of the riverfront took it over, and that's what created this truck traffic. What we're asking for is for you to give us our street back.
Thank you, sir. Who's next, please?
Hello, my name's Craig Coleman. I live at 4902 Indiana. I've lived there for about 4 years. This is, there's nothing for me from a property owner, homeowner standpoint to be gained from this. It's purely a safety issue, and it's a no-brainer, but for the Marathon's $10 billion market cap that I guess we're here, they cut through Indiana. I'm in between 51st and 46th. They cut through from 5 o'clock in the morning to dawn, all hours of the day, to get to 47th. With a full load, as someone mentioned earlier. The accident that happened in 2014 was on Centennial, and yes, that is at the time, it was a less populated area, industrial. It is still industrial, but it's changing. That if you look back at those articles and news reports, you'll note that the trucker, hit a parked car. Unfortunately, though, it was during the day, and so there was a pretty good response, reasonable response at that time. 5 schools had to be evacuated or locked down. The furthest one away was a mile away. It was Cone, or Pearl Cone, anyway, over in Sullivan Park. So all the way across Charlotte Avenue. They talked about a blast zone or blast radius, which, but if you think about lockdown and having to, a business or organization or homes being affected a mile away, and things get a little bit, start adding up pretty quick. So yeah, this is a huge safety concern for me, issue for me. It's a no-brainer. So thank you for your time.
Next, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Guth. I live on 5412 Michigan Avenue. And I don't want to go over a lot of points other people have made, but I did want to talk briefly about really the changing nature of this street compared to where it was last time we talked about this before the commission, and also a little bit in comparison to the alternative avenue that we're sort of talking about today, which is Centennial. When I moved to the neighborhood, which was a few years ago, it was already clear 51st was going in one direction and Centennial is not necessarily going in the same direction. A lot of people talk about 51st becoming like 12 South, and in the few years I've been here, I've really seen that. It's part of why I'm to the neighborhood. It's very exciting. There are a lot of businesses that have been opening up on 51st, revitalizing that area, and many more of us residents really are walking there. I actually live probably closer to Centennial than I do to 51st. When I go to places on Centennial, I drive. When I go to places on 51st, I walk. And that's just the nature of that environment. And we also, I just want to hand this off, some harder working people to myself put together a list of businesses that have signed a petition basically saying, or supporting the prohibition, saying that that fits with their understanding of where the neighborhood's going as well. So I don't know who would like to take that. All right. Thank you. And I think the map kind of shows this as well, but the nature of the businesses coming up on 51st are much more pedestrian friendly. We actually have a dog park now that one of the restaurants opened up that's right along 51st with the dogs running right along next to the street. And the difference though on Centennial, there are few places opening up, but because they're not butting up against residential houses and apartments and those sorts of, and yards, they're building parking spaces, and it's the other reason that feels like a driving street, whereas 51st feels much more, that's where I walk with my kid and my dog and those sorts of things. So, hope that's helpful.
Thank you, sir. Okay. All right.
Hi, my name's Tim Brown. I live on Kentucky Avenue, about a block and a half off 51st. I'm involved with the Neighborhood Association, and as we discussed this particular issue, one of the things we also looked at is how we might work with Metro and with the companies to improve things, and we really wanted to look at down the road at how Centennial Boulevard could be changed and improved to ease some of the concerns of the truckers, specifically the intersection at 51st and Centennial, where if they were coming off Briley Parkway and making a sharp left turn, there's some businesses that opened right there that we could say maybe restrict parking to keep that lane open so they could have more swing room. Or as they're coming out of the terminal and turning right, perhaps redoing the corner there to make it more easy for the trucks to make the right turn. They do have the alternatives. If they come out and turn right on Briley, they go to, on Centennial, they can get to Briley. I will point out there's 2 other tanker farms up that end, or they could turn left and go down Centennial to, which becomes Walter Davis, then turn left on Ed Temple. And there are also two areas down there with lots of tank trucks. So we're not just going to say, don't do this, don't do this. We want to work with the companies that are involved. And again, the companies that are between Delaware and Centennial, they're not infected by a truck weight ban because, as we discussed in the earlier meeting here, they can conduct their business. Trucks can make deliveries to those businesses in the weight restriction zone. So what we're really looking at is then limiting the truck traffic, of course, through the middle of the neighborhood, but we'd also like to work with Metro and the other businesses involved to make sure that all are, at least have some way to improve the situations that they're facing. Just as I think the last speaker from the pro side, again, we just want to reiterate our biggest concerns are the safety for the pedestrians and the people who are going to be frequenting the businesses along 51st, and that has really changed. I'm an avid bicyclist, and I love 51st now. I can ride there without concern about the traffic. So thank you. Does anyone have questions for anyone?
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Okay. All right. So I think we'll now ask those who would like to speak against the truck prohibition to step forward, please. And again, please state your name and for the record. And keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Commission, my name is Tom Lee. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name's Tom Lee. I'm a member of the law firm of Frost Brown Todd here in Nashville. I'm pleased today to represent Marathon along with its subsidiaries, Speedway, SWTO, and Blanchard Terminal. We appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today and to be heard. Our clients and the businesses that are here with us today do oppose this regulation. 51st Avenue, shown on your screen, is the only north-south arterial route in West Nashville. It's an arterial route designed for the purposes that the city's street plan contemplates. Significantly, Centennial Boulevard is also an arterial route, and so also is 12 South. We oppose a truck ban on 51st Avenue for the following reasons. First, we've always opposed it. Our terminal is located, as you look at the map, at the dead end of 51st Avenue. I'm not quarreling at all and wouldn't quarrel with the experience of neighbors who may have had truck traffic on their streets on Indiana, for example, but there's no truck that cuts off on Indiana Avenue to get to Marathon, which is at the end of 51st Avenue. That is our address. Second, in 73 years of operating the Blanchard Terminal, Marathon and its predecessors have been a good neighbor. The Nations has always been a residential neighborhood. It is changing, but it's always been a residential neighborhood. Our employees have lived there, we shop there, and we understand that the safety of our employees is related to the safety of the neighborhood. The very graphic description of class zones forgets one fact. There's a driver in that vehicle too, and that driver has every incentive in the world to be safe. Finally, and respectfully, this regulation, which addresses only some traffic on 7 blocks of one road, does not advance the cause that I think everyone in this room shares, which is the safety of the neighborhood. In fact, we contend, as you will hear today and see, it works against the real safety of the neighborhood. There are pedestrian issues, not just around our terminal, but in the neighborhood as well. There are parking issues. There are pressures of development. And we'll show you evidence of those as we discuss and hopefully propose a collaborative solution. We're in complete agreement with the last gentleman who spoke that will allow everyone in the neighborhood to participate in addressing all of these issues at once instead of piecemeal. That's the framework of our presentation. I'd like now to introduce Erin Osting to my right, who's Government Affairs Manager at Marathon, and she'll briefly state Marathon's position regarding the truck ban.
I have a question. How many employees are we talking about that work here in this location?
Any time I've got 10 employees that rotate in and out of the facility.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Osting.
Thank you, Chairman Green. Thank you, members of the commission. I know your time is valuable, so I'll be brief. Marathon Petroleum Company has not supported a truck ban on 51st Avenue North. In addition to the substantial business impact and increase in operating costs, this truck ban poses significant safety risks to our customers, our employees, third-party haulers, the residents of the Nations, and customers visiting the shops on Centennial and 51st Avenue North. You heard differently during the meeting on June 12th. For example, at this meeting it was reported that Marathon does not have trucks. That's not the case. Marathon subsidiary, Speedway LLC, has a transportation company called SWTO. SWTO and other third-party haulers supply fuel to more than 30 Speedway stations in the greater Nashville area. Our Blanchard terminal, located on 51st Avenue North, has approximately 100 trucks filling up per day. As we will show you shortly, 51st Avenue is usually the safest route for a truck to take in and out of that terminal. Marathon has an excellent safety history, and we are invested in safety. From our dash cameras that notify us when drivers are texting, to our in-truck computers and monitors that monitor speed of our truckers. All of this data is downloaded and sent back to supervisors back in the offices on a daily basis. We're committed to safety as if it is our lives dependent on it, because it does. Safety is a core value of my company. Marathon has invested significant time and energy and is committed to supporting the enforcement of traffic rules and regulations. We want to be a good neighbor because that's who we are as a company. But please don't take it from me. I'd like you to hear from our terminal manager, Bobby Winters.
Thank you for your time. I've been a part of Marathon now for 24, going on 25 years, and I've worked at this facility there at 51st Avenue for the last 4 years, 2 months. We understand it is a neighborhood, it's growing, it's progressive, and it's rich in history. A lot of hardworking folks live there in the neighborhood, and they're trying to make it better. But our terminal's been there at the end of that street for the last 70 years.
How many?
70. 70.
Okay.
We try to stay involved with the community, and a lot of that comes in, like with the fire department, police department. We try to be good neighbors, try to help them out. I know we have a first responder grant program each year, which, you know, we have to take, and the fire department has to listen to the motion. It goes before the council when we get, you know, when we give them a first responder grant for whether it's fire nozzles for their boat or for their baskets, for aerial rescues. And we appreciate, you know, the service they do and what our neighbors are trying to do. With that being said, we were a little stunned, and especially some of the truck drivers that come out of our facility were stunned to hear that everything was restricted. Not every truck driver cuts through the neighborhood. I think that's a few. But I do know that we believe in a safety culture. We want to work with the neighbors. We're patrons in those restaurants down along the street. So, I mean, I do see some concerns, but, you know, we do want to be a good neighbor. It's creating other issues at the end of the street. As the last gentleman spoke for the prohibition, those trucks that are turning left off of Centennial onto 51st now, you've got Nikki's Coal Fire Pizza, you've got an office complex, you've got the Frothy Monkey, Dollar General, and they're working hard to build another facility. I hear it's going to be restaurant venue, entertainment venue, but there's no parking. And one of the concerns we have is all the cars that are on the side of the street, and which, you know, Josh will show here shortly, I believe, with a presentation. It's creating a whole completely different hazard at that end of the street. So with that, I'm Josh Carter to my left here.
Sure. Yes, sir. Josh Carter, Marathon and Speedway, as well as SWTO, our transport arm. I'd actually like to request more than 3 minutes. I have some videos I'd like to show you guys that kind of puts perspective of the hazards that this ban brings.
Commissioners, I ask for your feedback on that.
How much time you need?
Sir, I would say up to 6 minutes.
Total of 9?
Total of 6.
Total of 6? Okay. Yes, that'll be fine.
Thank you. Thank you all. I heard a lot of the neighbors discuss cut-throughs, and I can't talk about the other trucking companies that come to 51st Terminal. I can only speak about SWTO, which is Speedway's transport arm that delivers fuel to Speedway stations throughout Tennessee and up to Bowling Green, Kentucky. They do not cut down Indiana or Illinois. They stay on 51st Avenue North. They come right into the terminal. They might take a left or right out of Centennial. It just depends. After we learned of your vote June 12th through a call from a reporter, SWTO and Speedway studied alternative truck routes to the terminal. As Tom mentioned earlier, there's only 2 arterial highways, 51st Avenue North, which is the only north-south access, as well as east-west Centennial. So that leaves us with 2 options. We can come off Centennial from the west, or we can go eastbound through Tennessee State University, which is a highly congested area. So I hear a lot of residents discuss hazards of the trucks. What if they blow up? So, you know, you're going to send them down through a congested college area. So I would like to note that also that the left-hand turns in and out of the terminal requires a left-hand turn without a green turn arrow from Centennial to 51st Avenue. And I'd like to show you a video quickly at what a driver sees when they're making this hazardous left-hand turn. Sir, if you could play the video. So this is from the street. This shows about a 110-degree angle turn that this SWTO truck's going to make onto 51st Avenue North from Centennial. As you can see, it has to cut out right and then cut back up onto 51st Avenue North. And you can see some of the parking, which is going to be a problem at some point if it's not addressed. That turn also requires a driver to expose the flank of their vehicle, which even when empty contains petroleum fumes, to very fast oncoming traffic, the line of sight to which is blocked by buses, parked cars, and the slight hill vehicles are coming down as they approach the intersection. Another note is that banning trucks on 51st Avenue North will undoubtedly cause traffic turning into the terminals on 51st Avenue North to back up, which will disrupt the traffic flow, I think, as pointed out by that study that the residents want to appeal, and also causes higher risk for rear-end collisions. So if you could play video too, or if it was playing. So this is a SWTO truck coming down Centennial eastbound, and he's going to make a left-hand turn onto 51st Avenue North. As you see, he comes to a complete stop at the red light. And then you'll notice this light is not a green arrow, it's just a solid green. I apologize for the delay. This was my video taking, and it was cheap, done cheaply. So as the light turns green, he ensures no cars are coming, but it's hard to see around that bend, and as you can see, there's a semi coming. And so cutting off 51st Avenue North, they're going to have way more trucks backed up turning left, which increases the risk of some type of collision into that flank of that trailer. You know, the residents mentioned the explosion on Centennial, and I think it was 60th or 61st. I didn't find any accidents on 51st, but you have to understand when you're transporting 8,500 gallons of fuel, it's not like a normal car. When you take a slight turn, that fuel shifts, and it could cause the transport to tip over. So if you're having these vehicles go Centennial and there's more turns, you're increasing the risk of turnovers. So as somebody else said, Marathon's priority is safety. It's what we do. We assess risk. We work to mitigate safety risks for our drivers, the communities in which we operate. Diverting traffic off a 7-block truck ban and onto Centennial doesn't make the nation safer. In fact, it adds several safety hazards for everyone. I mentioned earlier Marathon's desire to work collaboratively for a holistic approach to safety in Nashville, and in particular the Blanchard Terminal. The development of new businesses between Centennial and the terminal entrance is causing a parking and pedestrian issue, and I'd like to show you one more video if I could. So as you'll see, this pedestrian right here, he's going to go to the Frothy Monkey, which isn't open yet, but he just comes right out in front of a truck.
That's a construction.
Whether it's a construction worker, resident, customer at one of these businesses, I mean, somebody's going to get hit. These semis are, 80,000 pounds. They can't just come to a complete stop. So there needs to be some type of crosswalks, traffic signals, or whatever. But again, Marathon will work with the city to come up with some type of approach to address the issues. Just one last comment is, looking at this picture, if there's a truck at this light and you have cars on both sides by the customers of the 51st Avenue businesses, and then you want trucks coming in left on that solid green light, and he starts to turn, one of them's going to lose. Somebody's going to lose. I mean, this is a huge problem, and and it needs to be addressed. I don't think banning trucks on 51st Avenue North solves the safety problems that are cited today. Maybe banning trucks on the side streets, maybe, but 51st Avenue North, I'm not so sure. I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Thank you.
And thanks for the extra time. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And Chairman, we'll conclude. I just would like to focus the members' attention on this photograph. This was taken just a couple of hours ago. It is the constant state of affairs given the development in the neighborhood. The development's superb, and everyone agrees. There are folks parking there who are construction workers. We've seen folks who park in the Dollar General lot, which is to the right of that photograph, either to visit the restaurant at lunch or who are servers being trained at the coffee shop, which is about to open. There's a signalization problem here. There are parking issues here. There are turn radius issues here. And for those reasons, presently, the safest route for a truck to enter this terminal is straight ahead. That's the purpose for which 51st Avenue not only has existed for a long time, it's the purpose for which it exists as an arterial right-of-way. I'll say just one last quick thing about that. The city street plan identifies Centennial almost identically as an arterial boulevard. And it's not difficult to imagine, given the pace of development in the community, that there will be pressure at some point for the city to do with Centennial what it's done here. 51st Avenue as a straight street is the safest. Last thing I'll say. The only significant accident that has occurred that any of us can find any record of occurred on the curve on Centennial. A driver, not one of ours, but a driver lost his attention for a split second. That shift in weight on the curve that Josh talked about occurred, and the truck just rolled over. And then it slid and created the dangers that folks have described.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr.
I think we have one more person like to, yes, if you, wait just 1 second, please. Okay, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Tom Byers. I'm the Manager of Government and Media Affairs for Magellan Midstream Partners. Also here today with me is Lee Pickett, who is our local operations supervisor, who will be available to answer any questions that you might have. Magellan owns and operates 2 refined products terminals in the city of Nashville, one at the intersection of 63rd Avenue and Centennial, the other just north of the intersection of 51st and Centennial, adjacent to the Marathon facility. Collectively, Magellan's 2 terminals supply a substantial portion of the gasoline and diesel fuel that is consumed in the Nashville metro area. Notwithstanding statements to the contrary that were made during the June 12th meeting, no one at Magellan was notified of the city's intent to close 51st Avenue. I was not notified, our local operations personnel were not notified. And during the hearing on the 12th, the Commission was told that Marathon, Colonial, and a plastics company were the only businesses that would be affected by the closing of 51st Avenue. So please, Commissioners, let me be clear. The decision would directly impact Magellan and could also have an adverse impact on our storage customers, on the trucking companies that pick up the product and deliver it to the retail locations. The closure of 51st Avenue would require an alternate route, which, as we've discussed, would require a left-hand turn in order to enter our facility. It is preferable, both for the safety of the truck driver and the motoring public, that they not be required to make a left-hand turn. Magellan appreciates the efforts of Marathon to protect the interest of companies which make up an integral part of the Nashville business community. And we echo and we support the comments that have been offered today by Ms. Osting and the other Marathon representatives. And lastly, we would urge the City of Nashville to follow the findings of the traffic study which it commissioned, findings which are contrary to the proposal that's being discussed today, and open the traffic and remain 51st as open to traffic, to truck traffic. I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today, and I ask you for your consideration of our position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Are there other people who are here to speak against? Please come forward, speak to the microphone, state your name.
Scott Gillahan, 6124 Morrow Road, and I live in the Nations too, but I'm not for this ban. I just think it's a bad idea. I remember back 3 years ago when the truck turned over, all that gasoline washed down the storm sewers, and I had geysers of flame coming out of my sewers in my backyard there. So I think that little curve right there in Centennial, if they was to proof Centennial, if like what Tim said, if we get some way to go around to 56th Street, that'd be fine. But I am against the truck ban, and I live in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Who's next, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Donald Yao. I am the plant manager for the Innophos plant, 4600 Centennial Boulevard. We've been your neighbor for a long time. I don't know all of you all, but we're excited about what's going on in the Nations, and if anybody would like to get to know us a little bit better, we'd be glad to invite you to come on over to the Innophos plant, learn a little bit more about what we do. I see Bobby here. We've had Bobby over for some catfish, right? We'd love to see some more folks from the neighborhood. Like I said, we've been your neighbor for a long time. We'd be excited to get to know you a little better. Mr. Chairman, committee, thank you for letting me talk. Innophos and its predecessors have owned and continuously operated our manufacturing plant located at 4600 Centennial Boulevard for 97 years. We built the plant in 1919. We make the same product today that we made in 1919. Today we employ over 140 people from Nashville, surrounding Middle Tennessee communities to manufacture our ingredients for the food industry, as well as a variety of sophisticated phosphorus-based catalysts and intermediates. Our business relies on over-the-road carriers to bring us our raw materials, supply, and to transport out our finished products. Efficient access to our site for our vendors and carriers is of principal concern to us. Right now, our typical truck volume is about 12 to 18 trucks per day during the week, 3 to 5 trucks per day on the weekend. An average of about 10 trucks Monday through Friday are used to transport our food-grade phosphate salts to a third-party warehouse on the south side of Nashville. These shuttle trucks go back and forth between our plant, and depending on prevailing traffic conditions, truckers are very smart, as we've heard today, they will very frequently use 51st Avenue. If 51st Avenue is not available to them, then Briley Parkway to Centennial, as we've heard, is probably one of their best alternate routes. That route will add about 6 miles round trip and 10 minutes transport time for every round trip that these trucks make every day. And it doesn't sound like a lot, one individual trip, but over the course of the year, that works out to as much as 15,000 additional road miles, 450 additional road hours. This is a direct cost to our current provider, which they in turn pass on to us. I guess I don't really need to underscore that extra cost for a manufacturing organization in the U.S. today is not a great thing. We also note that if this ban goes back into place and all truck traffic is...
Thank you for your time.
I'm up with time?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I think everyone has spoken for or against, so we will close the public hearing, and then we'll take questions from commissioners and staff. So we may need to ask people to come forward again for questions, so we'll do that. So the public hearing is now closed. Okay, commissioners, fire away.
Well, I'd like to just ask a question about the turns, because that was mentioned a lot by the trucking company, and that making left turns is very difficult, and that's a reason why using the Centennial route, which is at the same grade as, or I guess same arterial status as 51st. But am I correct that if the trucks went down 51st, they're actually making 3 left turns to get to the interstate? Is that because the left turn won't be at the light, but it will be then either on Delaware or Indiana or somewhere else.
So yeah, we agree that those left turns are super dangerous, super dangerous. So when they're coming from the interstate, what they don't want to do is go down Centennial and take a left. But those are when every picture they showed you, every video they showed you was where the trucks were empty. I happen to take a walk every day. Well, I took 7 days a walk, and I have a video that I would like to show as well, if that's possible.
Ms. Kern is at...
Well,
that's my answer to her question.
Yeah.
Is this video, actually.
Okay. All right, please show the video.
So what they showed were trucks taking a left when they're empty, coming from Centennial into theirs. I'm showing when they're full. So every day that I took a walk, I took a video of a different truck turning left when their tanks are full. And I agree with them. They said the weight shifts when the trucks turn left, very dangerous. Their turn on Alabama. They said that when the trucks, it causes trucks to turn over when they're full, or they said empty and full, when they take a left. So every day I took a walk. It's easy to get a video of when they're completely full, coming from Marathon, taking a left onto Alabama. So the answer to that, in my opinion, would be it's really much safer when they're empty to take a left than when they're full.
If I may address that.
Ms. Kern?
Well, I think that answered my question, just that there are left turns in both scenarios. Kind of, it's just a question of where the left turn happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except one, they're full, and one they're empty.
All right. Other commissioners or staff, Chip, to you?
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about the left turns and the parking interfering with the radii and the shifting of fuel and that kind of thing. Well, let me say, no matter how this vote turns out, we're going to look at the left turn phasing out at Centennial. Sounds like that's an issue no matter what's going on with any other vote. And the on-street parking, we're going to look at that to make sure the radius is clear, because nobody benefits from a truck not being able to make a turn or having to expose their flank, whatever that means, and I don't know, but we can look at the left turn, the phasing of the signal. We can look at the on-street parking, if the roads are too narrow, if the construction workers are getting in the way. That's all stuff we can do operationally. So thank you for that testimony, but I want you to know that do not let that impact one way or the other, because we need to address that regardless of which direction. Now, about the left turns, if I was following the testimony correctly, when they're coming back towards the interstate trying to get on 40 westbound, it's a little tricky, and they end up having to do 3 lefts to make a right, if that makes sense. If you're going southbound on 51st to go westbound on 40 because of the one-way conditions throughout that area, you end up having to go left, 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 and then next thing you're on 40 westbound. So it's all about the one-way conditions through there, and you want to go one direction, but the street won't let you go.
Chip, can you speak a little bit to the comment about the other alternatives and how viable those options are?
Well, I think what we should do today is rehear our case where we presented why we denied it in the first place, if that's okay. The company that did the study, KCI Engineering, is here, and if Brandon, could you come up and do your presentation? It'll explain, hopefully it'll explain what you're asking me, why we denied it in the first place, what the other alternatives are, and why, like he said, this is classified as an arterial roadway, and that's where we started with our diagnosis of where we want trucks. Corby, do you still have that Google map up? Zoom out to about 20,000 feet or so. You'll see the yellow lines and not the drawing they brought, that one, that's perfect. The Google behind that. Back up just a hair out further. So just in a very basic analysis, when Google or whoever makes a map like this, they color code access controlled roadways, they color code arterials, they color code all these. So just look at this from a very elevated view, and you see the colors come out at you. That's where we want traffic. We want them on the yellow lines. We want them on the oranges yellow lines. We don't want them on the grays. That's a very elementary description of a traffic engineer's view of this area. So Brandon, you want to take it from here?
PowerPoint. So as Chip said, I'm Brandon Taylor. I'm with KCI Technologies. I'm Brandon Taylor. I'm with KCI Technologies. We did the study on 51st for the trucks. I'll go over kind of our study scope and then get into some of the details. We were looking at the feasibility of the truck restriction on 51st, and so the first thing we did was investigate the existing truck routes in this area. At the time the study was done was before 51st had been repaved and repainted. So at the time, we were looking at the current conditions and looking towards the future. Now we're kind of in a different situation where it's been converted. And so that's why I have former and current condition of 51st Avenue here. And then comparing the two truck routes. So as you can see, as we've spoken about today, the current truck restrictions in the nation's neighborhood are as follows. The red are restrictions in both directions. The green is the westbound only restriction, and the yellow, which is Georgia Avenue down there, is a eastbound only condition, leaving 51st Avenue as the only unrestricted roadway in the area from the interstate to Centennial Boulevard.
Wait, go back to that. So Georgia Avenue, what color should that be there south of Indiana? And I guess is Indiana, is that green all the way across?
Yeah.
Okay.
From 51st all the way to 44th.
And then Georgia is?
From 46th to 44th.
What color, though? I mean?
Green.
So Georgia would be green, even though it's not shown on this map?
It's more of a yellow, I'm sorry.
So that would be restricted eastbound only?
Yes.
A question, please. Can you show me where the schools are on here? Are they located down?
It might be better to do that.
I see. Cockrell. Okay.
47th in Indiana.
Surrounded by the green.
If you look here, they're the yellow blocks. Don't want to. I can put it up or leave it down.
You can leave that up now.
I'll chime in by saying the odd condition of the green and yellow is because we see the blue industrial area to the east. Again, back to the one-way conditions out there, there are some companies over in that area, industrial area, that they can access and exit their roadways without getting into the depths of the nation. So the one-way pairs worked out for that trucking company. I don't want to get in the weeds, but that's why that's like that.
Again, on the street classification, the red lines are arterial roadways. You can see 51st Avenue is considered arterial, as well as Centennial. And Charlotte Avenue is the only other arterial in that area. All the rest of them are neighborhood streets or local streets. This is what I'm calling the former 51st Avenue cross-section. So prior to it being repaved, I think we've all talked about this, it was 2 lanes in each direction, 11.5-foot lanes, all travel lanes, no on-street parking within this vicinity. And this is the current 51st Avenue section. We have 1 travel lane in each direction, a center turn lane, on-street parking on one side, and the bike lanes, both direction bike lanes with a buffer on the other side. You can go one more. Here's a picture of the current condition as we have it today. So our first option was looking at if the truck route remains on 51st Avenue. And so at the time we were looking ahead to the new layout, and with the new layout there would be more buffer between the trucks and bikers now that we'd have a full buffer zone between the bike lanes and the traffic. We also have the parking zone between the through traffic lanes and the sidewalk. It allows access to any properties on 51st Avenue that would need trucks to get in and out. This would allow access to that. Minimizes trucks' use of the local residential streets, and what I mean by that is if there were a restriction, we foresaw trucks getting off the interstate and seeing the restriction and then having to turn around on neighborhood streets. This provides a shorter, more direct route from the interstate to the northern industrial area, which I had shown before, as well as at the time we knew the new pavement being put down on 51st Avenue was designed specifically to handle larger truckloads. Here's an example of a property on 51st at Tennessee Avenue that has truck parking in their parking lot. This option 2 we looked at, and this is the Briley to Centennial option. As you can see, if they're coming from eastbound, they would bypass 51st Avenue, used Briley Parkway onto Centennial. Coming from the other direction, again, they'd use Briley onto Centennial. As it was mentioned before, there is one more route into this area, which would be either getting off at Jefferson or 28th Avenue and cutting through Tennessee State and coming in from Centennial from the other direction. We didn't look at that one because that was quite a bit longer than this route. We wanted to look at the more direct alternative route, which was this one. Good. Option 2, this is what we looked at in terms of if the truck route was closed on 51st and what would happen if trucks used Centennial and Briley Parkway. We took some measurements. Currently, this is just a general number, it'd be 1.2 miles to get to the industrial area from the interstate, approximate time of 3 minutes. This was calculated just based on speed limit and distance. If the truck route were to move to Briley Parkway for the westbound traffic, the route becomes 3.9 miles approximately, 6 minutes. From the eastbound, it's about 1.5 miles in 3 minutes, and then if it were to move to Briley Parkway, it's 3.4 miles in 5 minutes. Again, as I mentioned before, some of our biggest concerns were if it is restricted on 51st Avenue, the enforcement of this would be difficult, and you may have trucks who get off onto 51st Avenue, realize it's restricted and turn around on neighborhood streets, which a lot of those streets are restricted as well. The travel times, as I'm shown here before, is approximately double what it is currently. And then we would be cutting off one of the 3 truck routes in and out of the area. So it would be down to 2 going only east and west, no north-south direction. We felt outreach to the areas, the industrial areas would be needed as part of the implementation of the study or the restriction. That signing on the interstate would be needed in order to direct trucks to the right area. So based on all this information, our recommendation was to allow trucks to continue using 51st Avenue for these reasons.
What'd you just say?
Based on this information, our recommendation was to keep the trucks on 51st Avenue. That's the old, right? The old recommendation you discussed. The was. Before the road. Previous, before the road died. Yeah. Correct. That was your recommendation before.
Okay. I think there's a question here from Mr. Hager.
Let me ask you something. You're saying, what I saw in here is that the new road widths are 10.5 feet, is that correct? Mm-hmm. And prior to that, they were what, 11.5 feet? What's the standard for this type of arterial roadway with heavy truck traffic on it? Isn't it supposed to be 12 feet wide? Am I correct?
I think the minimum within Nashville is 10 feet.
Is 10 feet?
Yeah.
Standard on the interstate is 11 feet.
Yeah, 11 feet on the interstate? Okay.
Standard on the interstate through Davidson County.
Okay. And is this particular road, has there been core samples to determine if it can carry this type of weight, the 80,000 pounds?
I can't answer to the core sampling. I just know that the new pavement that was put down was designed for truckloads.
And if the trucks move if they don't go Centennial Boulevard, they'd have to go back around the other way toward Rosa Park Boulevard. Is that correct? Or
Jefferson or 28th.
28th?
From I-40.
Okay. So that would go back around over, okay, that other way. All right.
I believe it would be 28th to Walter Davis Boulevard.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And how many companies back there are using tractor trailers at the 80,000 pound limit? Is it just 3 companies, 4 companies?
I didn't count the specific number of companies, but I would say in my observations when I was out there, 3 to 5 different areas had trucks that I could see.
All right, thank you.
Other questions?
Well, I'm just curious, so go back to the slide about the minutes that were calculated for, it's the table. So in this, I mean, a lot of your decision is based on traveling of the truck and not necessarily safety of the complete street, or, the pedestrians and bicyclists on 51st. Like, how does that weigh in to your decision?
Well, at the time, the complete street hadn't been implemented, but the elements of the complete street offer narrowing of the lanes, like we said, and providing buffer zones. And we've seen that tends to slow vehicles down on the roadways. So in that, I guess, as part of that, we realized that there's a potential that vehicle speeds on 51st would be slowed with the complete street implementation.
Okay. Questions? Yes.
I may need to talk to our legal counsel, but the purpose of our commission is pedestrian safety, correct? And weight on roads?
I mean, there are a number of different areas of traffic regulation that is and parking regulation that is committed to you for your review and judgment in the charter. But certainly, yes, both in the charter and in the Metro Code, truck restrictions on roadways is one of those areas.
Well, it would appear to me that any kind of pedestrian safety is especially important around our schools. And the comments that I've heard about some of the risk being taken around schools for our pedestrians of all ages sound, I don't understand that, and I commend all of the way that 51st has been developed, and it looks like a great walking around neighborhood from what I've been in, but I don't understand if it was it designed still understanding it was going to be an arterial street? Did we plan that we were going to make any changes, or did we work with the companies and say, okay, this is not going to be wide enough for you all to come through and turn your trucks in? We're going to hit these poles. It seems like, Chip, was Public Works involved in the design for the?
Oh yeah, we were right in the middle of all that, and it's a wonderful story no matter what happens, because the nations, they're changing, and you still have an industrial area, but you do have a residential area, and they're passionate about their homes and their lifestyle. But yes, we did turning templates on the roads. We did the widths, like Councilman Hager said. What are the minimums? You're allowed to go down to 9, but we don't in Davidson County. So 10 to 12. If we've got the luxury to have 12, that's perfect. But here, we didn't meet with the companies because we were still in compliance as far as 10 to 12 feet. We're still in there. The turning templates worked out fine. You got the buffered bikes. You got the protected somewhat sidewalks. It's sidewalks, curved area. And some of the crosswalks are non-protected, if you want to call them that. They're marked crosswalks, but they're not signalized unless you get up to Centennial, and that's a special case up there. But I guess to answer your question, going around the block, is yes, we checked for all the compliance, but we did not speak with the firms to see, is this going to impact your trucks or anything like that.
So they're not required to stop at these pedestrian walks?
We all are. We all are required to yield to pedestrians in a crosswalk.
So are there signs saying that you have to yield so that somebody that's coming through and sees a pedestrian, anyone driving is going to stop?
No, there are not signs, but don't take this wrong, but it's not required. We still all need to do that. Just because it's not signed that you have to yield to pedestrian, still do that, please. all of us.
Sure. I know that I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, but is somebody going to stop 6 times, 6, 7 times? Is that what we heard?
If there are pedestrians in those crosswalks, and that could be how this turns out. If that area continues the way it's going, the trucks won't want to go through there. If there are pedestrians crossing numerous times, if the friction becomes so great, the trucks may choose to go a different route on their own anyway. So But yes, if there are pedestrians crossing, or if there's a cyclist, I don't know, for some reason that has to go around a parked car that's not supposed to be there parked, the motorist needs to yield to all other modes of transportation.
So are we going to have something there, though, that would enforce that on 51st? Is that, I mean, are you able to do that so that?
That is the speech I give every month in here. We can pass all the regulations and legislation that we want here. It does always come down to enforcement.
Commissioner Brown? Okay. Chairman, I got a couple of questions, or several. And commissioners, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but at our last meeting, did I understand that Marathon and maybe some of these trucking companies had been notified?
That's what was testified. That's not what happened.
Sir?
Terry, you might want to answer this one.
Please.
It's a question about the last meeting.
Yes, I'm assuming that our normal open meetings protocol was followed in terms of publishing notice of the meeting.
Were any of you people notified?
But since that decision has been vacated by the court and this commission has been charged to rehear the matter from scratch, essentially, today, the occurrences at the June 12th hearing are not material.
Okay. But I understood somebody to tell us that they had been notified.
Yes, sir. I talked to Lavelle Edmondson and told them that we were coming here for this meeting.
Okay. Those folks there?
Yes, I was in the meeting, and I was told that there could potentially be a vote. There was no specifics given a vote where, at a traffic and parking commission, at a council meeting. We just had a very open discussion, but there was no timeline given as to when a vote would be taken or where it would take place.
Okay. All right. Now, my understanding that all these trucking companies has been using this route for 70 years. Is that correct? And did I understand from you, Chip, that 51st was wider than any of these other streets for this purpose?
Well, I can't vouch with the new condition. It's wider than Indiana or Georgia or any of those, but the right-of-way is like a 100-foot right-of-way. It's classified as an arterial roadway, so by definition, it's a larger right-of-way.
Sir?
It's originally for the trolley lines. It's 100 feet for the trolley lines that ran out there.
Okay. Now, how many trucks use this road per day, roughly? Tankers?
I do not have that information.
And we probably don't have many.
Yeah, I wish you would, please.
I'd just like to be able to see you so I know if you're asking
Yes.
a question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Tom Lee, for Marathon, there are approximately 100 to 150 pickup and deliveries at the Marathon terminal every day. You've heard testimony from other businesses, from Magellan, from Inifos. There are others. Colonial has a substantial operation on Centennial. So there are anywhere, depending on the day, and it's an everyday occurrence, anywhere from 100 to 200 pickups a day.
Do they all use 51st?
Not every trip, but many times, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I saw on the screen new construction. Is that residential or commercial that's going on the video that we saw?
It's what you saw. I'll stay seated. What you saw on the video is primarily commercial construction that's happening at the intersection of 51st and Centennial.
But I can also answer that. 23 new businesses have opened up in the last 18 months on 51st Avenue.
Okay.
Which is, by the way, great. And I think it's important for folks to know that a truck ban is not actually a ban. It's a ban of some trucks on one path. The folks who spoke earlier about Indiana Avenue are exactly right. Trucks, if they are not permitted on Indiana Avenue, well, as Mr. Knopf rightly said, that's a matter of enforcement. That should be enforced right now. That shouldn't be happening if it's happening against the code.
Mr. Brown.
Well, you're not asking for them not to have access. They still have 2 points of access. We're only asking they don't go north and south. They still have east and west.
Well, this is tough. People have been using this for many, many years. And if you flip the coin over, the people that have moved in residentially knew the trucks were there when they moved in. So there's two sides to this thing. You know. You tell me.
Are there other questions from the Commissioner? Ms. Kern, you have your light on.
There are some trucks that currently use Centennial, is that correct?
Yes, for some loads, and of course there are businesses all along Centennial. I can't presume to speak for them all, just for ours. But yes, there are certainly trucks that do occasionally make a Centennial trip.
So it seems to me that the primary difference between Centennial and 51st, since there are left turns on both streets somewhere, you have to make a left turn. One's at the light, one's farther down, closer to the interstate, is that 51st, as reported by Brandon, takes about 3 minutes less. So it's kind of a question of, the trade-offs with each route. The major one being one takes a couple more minutes, and the other one takes you around the people who are walking the 9 crosswalks and the new bike lane and all the businesses. Takes a couple more minutes, but that seems to me to be the major difference between the two routes. Was that?
I agree. I think it's basically the safety of the pedestrians and the bikers, or to help the truckers have a little quicker route. It's one or the other.
And if I may, Ms. Kern, there's a reason there was an accident on Centennial. A curvy road is more dangerous. And the councilwoman is right to show the video that she showed, but respectfully, a 90-degree turn, which is what you have at the intersection of, I think it's Alabama and 51st, there's a 110-degree turn, which means the trucks turning into, if you come from Centennial eastbound, from the west, you make a 110-degree turn, essentially back against yourself. That means that a lot of traffic has to be cleared out of the way. It's not. And I take very seriously the representation of Mr. Knopf that that will be dealt with, but respectfully, the enforcement isn't keeping up with the changes in the neighborhood. And it is different. It is different. Not just because the trucks are empty or full. They're dangerous either way, respectfully. And there's not a turn lane on Centennial. There's not a dedicated green. Trucks will back up. That roadway will become more congested and more difficult than it is. It's not just a matter of time. It is primarily, if I may please, a matter of safety. It is a matter of safety.
Okay, Ms. Kern, has your question been addressed?
I think so.
Okay. All right. I actually have I'd like clarification. What exactly is the request before the commission as far as it relates to the truck restriction, the tonnage? Does it relate to specific type of vehicles or only weight? And also, if you have a business with a 51st address, what are your usage restrictions or no restrictions? Please.
The easiest way to kind of explain it is a truck prohibition, different than a weight restriction, is really similar to a cut-through prohibition. You're voting today, if we decide today, on trucks using 51st to cut from point A to point B. So what's on the table today is a truck prohibition. Any truck over 16,000 pounds between Delaware and Centennial. trucks within that are allowed to make deliveries, they're allowed to access their gas stations, they're allowed to do anything they can if it's in between point A and point B, if that destination is in there. But you're not allowed to go through 51st Avenue and come out on the other side and make a delivery over there. You've got to go around.
And can you
Thank
just
you for the
clarify
clarification.
what a 16,000 pound, is that when the tankers are empty and they're coming out, or can you give us a little bit of
Those
information
trucks are
on
way over that dry weight. They're,
even at dry weight?
yeah, a lot of our vehicles, our everyday vehicles exceed the 5,000 to 6,000 pound.
But not like if there was a food truck, Cisco, or something like
Correct.
that? Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Well, that, if I may, Commissioner, that depends. The last time I visited the terminal, there was an 18-wheeler making a delivery at what is now Nikki's coal-fired, and soon will be the Frothy Monkey Coffee Shop. So those trucks would be prohibited or covered by the prohibition as well.
And
is that correct, Chip?
Yeah, and well, I'm getting on the edge of my expertise with interpretation of law, but yeah, that's the rub in the truck prohibition. It is the interpretation of what it stands for. He makes a good point. They have vehicles that are heavier than 16,000 pounds, but if they need to go through, they're going through there. I know that's far-fetched, but if there are vehicles over 16,000 pounds that go through 51st Avenue, if it's prohibited, it's up to the interpretation of the police department and an attorney somewhere to decide if they broke the law.
Is there a compromise that could be reached where we're trying to encourage trucks to use Centennial, and then perhaps, maybe additional lights or enforcement to discourage them along 51st so people can cross the street? I mean, to me, that is a real safety concern that we need to consider, is that what's happening in and around 51st. If there's ways to make it maybe easier for them the trucks to get on Centennial and encourage that route. We're only talking about, to me, it's a couple of minutes. And the same could be said about people using it within, 51st, then right now it sounds like people are driving from one side to the other in the neighborhood when they could just easily walk if it was safe. So, Chip, can you talk a little bit about some compromises that?
Well, it's, we can ask very nicely, please use Centennial, but at the end of the day, it comes down to business and a lot of dollars to be rerouted at 6 minutes a pop times 200 a week or whatever it was times 365 days a year. It's, I hate to say it, but it's safety versus
convenience?
Convenience, yes.
Yes. Okay, well, let me go back to one more, Chairman, if you don't mind. So from the enforcement, can you enforce this 16-ton rule?
Obviously, yeah, you can enforce it. If the vehicle is observed by an officer there and it appears that they're over the 16,000 pounds, then that's their probable cause to stop them. And then they're going to have their documentation on them, their logs of what they're hauling and what the gross weight is. As far as it becomes difficult as far as once you go to court and they say, well, what was the gross weight? Well, I don't know. The paper said this. Did you weigh the vehicle? How are you going to weigh the vehicle? Portable scales cost $11,000. I just priced them, by the way.
And if I may, to your very good question, Commissioner, to talk about.
Doing is, Mr. Lee, if you would respond to direct questions from the commissioners, please. And
happy to respond to a question about what trucks are covered by this.
One comment. Please turn your mic on.
Turn your mic on.
If we'll remember the times that were discussed on that chart, that was prior to the modifications to the roadway. Is that correct?
Yes, that is.
Okay. So now that you got 9 crosswalks up and down there, I bet those times going that route are going to be different. So it's a lot like what Chip has said, that when you have that many stops, eventually they're probably going to stop using it. Or they're going to have the alternate route is going to be a better choice for them.
I'm really concerned about pedestrian safety. We're encouraging people, rightly so, to have a walkable place to live. in a perfect world, we'd all get to do that. So we're designing something, but it still sounds to me like the crosswalks that are all over the nations are maybe they're observed and maybe they aren't. And you can't stand there and write tickets all day. But doesn't seem to be, if we put all this money in on 51st to make it walkable, are the streets safe enough to hold this weight of the trucks if we're supposed to be looking at weight management? That's why I went back to ask, what are we supposed to be doing here?
It was a $3.9 million street.
Okay. All right, wait. Please respond to direct questions, please. Okay.
So I'm back with other Commissioner Mary talking about, where there's a compromise. I just don't want someone to think they can walk across here and somebody may not be aware of them. Are these crosswalks, do they have those little things in the middle? Those little signs that we see on Belcourt and 12 South. Not that they work there, but, are there those pedestrian crossing signs there?
Well, it is a state law, so every crosswalk in the state you have.
Yeah, but there's a lot that's a state law.
Yeah, but I think that's a good point. And I mean, as the gentleman mentioned before, it's hard to stop a truck, and so I think that's one of the concerns here.
And I think when we're putting, convenience versus safety, well, it's safety. I mean, I feel like as commissioners, in fact, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion.
Okay, if you'd like to make a motion, what would your motion be, please, Ms. Fabra?
I may need some help with this one. So, motion to, deny? No, motion to approve truck prohibition on 51st Avenue between Delaware Avenue and Centennial, and it would limit trucks to over 16,000 pounds.
Okay, we have a first. Is there a second?
I'd like to second.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion of the motion, or?
I'd like Chuck, can we put those crosswalks at those intersections at each street?
Well, the crosswalks exist. We can add additional
all
signage.
of them?
Well, the in-street signs, I mean, we can put them out there, but you want your neighborhood to still look nice at the end of the day, and those signs get hit pretty frequently. But we could put some in-street signs. We could put the side-mounted signs with the arrow. We don't want to over-sign this road either because it looks so nice as it is, but we can look into additional signage and that sort of thing.
And Chip, can we also look at some, ways to benefit the industry there too? If, those right-of-ways could be looked at, that turn, signal for trucks that are within the weight restriction?
Yes.
And some other things that would improve, because it sounds like both partners are willing to work together. We're just trying to find a good solution that's safe for everyone.
Yes, we'll look at the phasing of the signal. We'll look at the turning radii. We'll look at the parked cars. And depending on how this turns out, we will have to work with the state on some trailblazing signs on I-40 and probably around Centennial and Briley Parkway. But those are state routes, state access.
Well, before we vote?
Yes.
Another question for Chip. In a perfect world, when we do our planning, if we're looking at Google Maps and it's showing us what the major roads are going to be, and that's changing, with the shift in the neighborhoods, is there some way that we could have any planning so that it's cost effective for people that are providing jobs and have been used to doing something? I mean, if we're saying this is a major road, but hey, we're going to narrow it, and we're going to make the lanes smaller.
Well, don't use my very scientific Google analysis.
Well,
but that's kind of a very broad from-the-moon picture, or maybe the sun, since next Monday's coming. But if you go to the Planning Commission's website, the Planning Department, and they have the major roadway plan out there. It's called a collector plan. Look on there, and they used it for one of their demos. And it's got color-coded things, and the Planning Department, as much as we can, with Nashville growing like it is, they try to forecast growth. And so when they're calling something an arterial, it may be a 70-year-old road, or it may be future needs to be an arterial whatever. So use the Planning Commission's roadway classification map, if that helps you. It still comes down to cases like this where 51st Avenue is on that map, it's clear as a bell, it's an arterial. But you have people with strollers and walkers and bikers, and you don't see a lot of bikes and strollers on true arterials or access-controlled highways. So any piece of information you can get, whether it's planning department, whether it's from testimony, whether it's from Google or whoever, yeah, do reach out and get that. But don't take that as the only thing you need. You sometimes need to hear the testimony.
And if I can just chime in, so yeah, the major collector street plan has those designations, but that's a living plan. I understand they recently went through an update, so as things change,
Correct.
that can be updated.
And that's good. I mean, it does need to be a living document because the growth, where's the next one going to be? So it's nice the Planning Commission can do that, the Planning Department can do that.
I think, are we ready for a vote? One thing I'd like to state that I'd like to there's been a lot of conversation about safety, about these intersections at 51st and Centennial to be addressed, the parking. It seems like we need turn signal for these left turns. So I'd just like to the record to state that there's all the commissioners expressed some concern relating to, I'll just describe these as ancillary issues related to this. Okay. All right. I call for a vote. Please raise your right hand. All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Okay. All against? The motion has passed. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming and your patience. Okay. We have 2 more items, please. I'd like to quickly dispose of old business item number 1. Ms. Babber, you had asked this item to be withheld, to be deferred. Have your questions been addressed?
Yes, they have. I just wanted to make sure that there was not, typically the alleys are used for trash pickup and utilities and things like that. And I don't know if you all saw the sketch, but as it looks like it's moving forward, that will be accommodated on a less traveled street. I didn't want to see that on Jefferson or 5th or the park. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. The motion is passed. Okay. Old business item number 2 relates to denial of valet stand on the east side of 15th Avenue North. And I'm going to assume that those left in the room are here for that, or we're so entertaining that you want to hang around. Okay. No. Okay. So it's for the former, not the latter, as I suspected. Okay. So, Chip, Diane, have you gotten any additional information since our last meeting before we talk to anyone?
At last month's meeting, you requested a study be done, and Collier Engineering completed that study for us. Amy with Collier is here if she would like to discuss it. A copy of that information is also with each of the commissioners. Based on the observation that Collier Engineering did for us, they did not see any direct problems with that valet operation. But like I stated, Amy is here if there's anything you need to ask her because she completed that study for us.
Just kind of a reminder, I don't know who was and wasn't, I think we were all here last month, but we kind of deferred based on the testimony that the operations are concerned, and there was video of the operations causing traffic congestion and that sort of thing. And so we left the meeting and went and captured our own video and did our own analysis and put together a document that's floating around in front of you. Basically, the analysis that Amy found out, and let me preface this by saying, maybe they knew they were being videotaped. I don't know. But the operations had typical valet concerns that you see at just about every valet operation in town, where every once in a while they get overwhelmed with business and they have a few that are backed up in a queue, and then eventually it calms down and they go park them correctly. That's what we found in the, what did you capture, Amy? 1 week or so, 1 week of data. But again, Amy captured the video. She went through the video and documented it in that report if you want to ask her some questions. But we were tasked with going and observing the operation to see if we saw a reason that there should not be a valet because of traffic concerns. Other concerns, I don't know what we capture on that, but that's not our deal.
Amy, can you step forward? Can you discuss, please, is this your report since our last meeting? Is that correct?
Yes, we just documented what we counted on the video.
Okay, if you could try to be brief in the interest of time, since we're not that entertaining.
Sure. So we captured data for 7 days from 5 p.m. to 4 a.m. Beginning July 24th through the 31st. And we reviewed the data on the Thursday evening, Friday evening, and Saturday evening. So this is from someone else's video that you're seeing there. But so what we did was we counted valet operations to see how much activity is going on. And if you have that letter in front of you, just tabulates by hour how many valet maneuvers. And these, what's counted is one valet maneuver is, say, you drop off your car or you pick it up. So a round trip would be 2. So you drop your car off and you come back, and that's 2 trips. So we just summarized how many valet maneuvers we saw during that time period. So the total between 6 p.m. and 3 a.m., or 4 a.m. actually, on Thursday was 33. The highest we saw was on Friday, the 28th. And the busiest time period is kind of when the businesses are closing in the early morning hours. And what we were looking for was, were there occasions when the valet operations were spilling into the crosswalk and into the intersection, causing traffic conflicts? We did not see a lot of that, but we did see 2 occasions in the 2 a.m. hour on Friday evening, so early Saturday morning, where the valet operations kind of caused some traffic to spill into the intersection, but they lasted about 10 seconds for one of those instances and 30 seconds for the next. Oh.
That's me. I'm so sorry.
So I think that is the basic summary of what we observed from the video. The report also indicates that there's still a no parking to corner sign where the valet operation is occurring, temporarily occurring.
Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Birch? Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Birch. Okay.
We also have some people in.
I know we have lots of folks here here to speak for and against. I'd like to ask the commissioners, are y'all interested in hearing additional opinions from folks that we heard at the last meeting, or would y'all like to proceed to a vote? I don't want to try to stifle the process by any means, please.
We also have a letter here that was submitted to us in regards to the valet operation, if any of the commissioners would like to look at that. And we also received an email from the council member, and I do not know if y'all received that or not.
I did. I do not know if others did.
I'd like to see the council person's letter. Is it here?
If you can see through Diane's note-taking, this is a copy of Councilman O'Connell's letter.
Okay. There was a letter from the council member, and he was against the valet stand.
Well, instead of trying to figure that out, Diane, what did he say?
Yeah, it says, they support the denial of the permit.
Okay, we'll pass that on. Okay. All right.
Williams Medical, and pass the Williams Medical, please. Confirm. That's the one that they also opposed. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to propose the following. We heard a lot of opinions a month ago. What I'd like to try to do is to see if, we got lots of folks, but we're running out of time. Well, we can stay as long as everybody wants, but it's been a long day, is to try to see if there is one person who would be willing to speak on each side of this issue. I know we have the valet guy here. Is there?
In fairness to Councilmember O'Connell, are we clear on his email? No, all jokes aside, I do want to make that. Okay.
Yes. Is everyone's clear about the council member's letter? Okay.
And are the people here all opposed?
Okay. If you're opposed to the valet stand, please raise your hand. It just helps us figure out. If you are for the valet stand, please raise your hand. Okay. Okay. So I'd like to try to see if I can just get one person from each side, please, because I think we've gotten the gist of the arguments, but to summarize.
I do, somebody in opposition, we did get some photos from someone along the way, if you want to at least scroll through those as you do your presentation maybe, or I can do it, either way.
Okay.
Good afternoon, I'll keep this quick.
Yes, please state your name.
So I'm Eric Steer, I'm the plant manager of Country Delight, which is on Church Street across from the establishment. We use the streets, you'll see the pictures attached. I would like to start by saying one clarification. We are a 24/7 operation, so I know the study was done and they did say that the businesses were closing. We are a very old, very well-established Nashville Pure Milk Company, Seal Test, Truly Pure, Malone and Hyde, and now Country Delight.
Okay.
So we are a long-term business. As you can see, it impacts us both because we have 86 to 100 employees. So we have employees that are trying to walk to a parking lot, and we also have tractor-trailer traffic that is trying to move. So this is both a safety and an operational thing because we have both people that are trying to walk to their parking, and we have tractor-trailers that are going on during this. There's been a numerous operational. Our trucks are actually wanting to circumvent this neighborhood, and being dairy operations, we load our trucks early in the morning so we can get out to our establishments before significant traffic. So I think the pictures speak for themselves. I left letters also. Many of the business owners, or all of the business owners that are here, are having side effects, both from their employees, from their people that are coming, from both a safety and a business perspective. And I think as you look through the pictures, you can see, I would challenge the number of events that occurred, because you can see more than those events in the pictures that we listed. And also, please note the number of emergency vehicles that travel Church Street, going to the number of hospitals that are down there, and you can see from many of the pictures that they back up across Church Street.
Thank you, Mr. Gare. Please state your name.
Craig Martin. I'm the owner of Parking Guys. We're in the operation there. In all fairness, I appreciate all the pictures that have been distributed and the opposition, but we're totally running our operation as we're supposed to. I've spoken with Sergeant McCluskey on several occasions. He said there's been no problems. As the study has seen, we don't even park enough cars to create any traffic. We're following all the rules that we're supposed to. This group of individuals, and I want to just put it on the table, that they are opposed to it for special interests, for creating more business for them. We're doing what we're supposed to do. I employ 35 individuals, so removing that situation from us hurts my employees. I mean, we're doing the best we can do to make the situation work for what it is. The main bit of traffic that's there that really creates traffic is the cabs and the Ubers and Lyfts. If that no part where all the cars are parking at on the street, if that could be dedicated for just cabs and Lyfts and Ubers, that would kind of contain some of the traffic issues. But as I explained to Mr. Lee, because he's the only one I've had conversation with, and I've asked him on several occasions to disclose any information that my operation is not going as it's supposed to. I've been there since the last hearing. I've been there every evening, especially on the weekends, and we're doing especially what we're supposed to do. I explained to him that 90% of the traffic that comes in that area comes from Tried and Play. The 200 people that come is not affecting that traffic area. I mean, it doesn't really equate to what's already going on Church Street. We can't control because trucks are coming over there. We're just running our operation. So I beg with the commission to allow us to continue with our operation because we're doing everything we're supposed to.
All right. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. Commissioners have any other questions, comments?
I'm sorry. I know we wanted to have just one.
Wait just 1 second, please. Commissioners have any other questions or comments?
I don't have a problem if somebody needs to say anything.
Okay. All right. Your name again is it Mr. Lee Millette? If you would just come forward and speak very briefly, please.
Thank you all for your time and your service. And I wanted to adhere to the one person speaking. However, there were statements made about always doing what's right, and I do know Mr. Martin, and I respect him. However, everything isn't done has not been correct. You have pictures from Wilder Motors. We've been contacted by DCI. These are parking lots that are being used by his valet company, and they have not authorized that usage. They've had cars booted, and he's had to pay to get boots off of those cars because they were illegally parked in other people's parking lots. So I respect anyone's business. I respect anyone that wants to be in business, but if you're going to say you're doing everything right, then you should be doing everything right. You shouldn't be flying drones while people are trying to get up and down the street as a business owner. So everything isn't being done that's right, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioners, y'all have any questions or concerns?
Can I just come to this last comment, and I'll make it real brief? In regards to...
Okay. We're trying to, avoid we're getting a whole lot of tit for tat here, and I don't find that in a public setting this becomes a very productive thing. We've had a report. We're here based on the facts. Commissioners, do we have a motion that anyone to entertain since there seems to be no more questions?
Well, I think the report and the pictures seem to be a little bit at odds from just based on kind of that. But I do think the letter from Councilman O'Connell should stand for a lot since he hopefully has a good feeling of what's going on his street. So I would move to deny the valet stand.
Okay, we have a motion to deny the valet stand. Is there a second? Second. We have a second. All in favor? Any discussion? Further discussion of the motion? If not, we'll call for a vote. Please raise your right hand if you're for the motion. All in favor of the motion? Okay. Any opposed? Okay. The valet stand has been denied. Thank you, Commissioners. I know it's been a long day. Captain?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
It has been seconded, and we are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.